tell us a little bit about the protagonist of a lot of research, the Carvajal, the younger.
Sure.
And what was his role in the settlement of Mexico with his uncle, and then we'll get to his religious anthology.
Yeah, so he was born as Luis Rodriguez, actually. Very common back then to change your name. People had a lot of last names, and you could kind of pick and choose. And when his uncle, who had no children, was looking for someone to kind of rely on, he took his uncle's name. So we have two Luis de Carvajals, and the reason why he becomes Carvajal is because he becomes kind of the assistant to the uncle, and they work hand in hand. They work very, very closely together upon the arrival to Mexico. But a little bit about him. Luis is part of this Portuguese New Christian family, lives on the Spanish side of the Portuguese border. They're cloth merchants, it seems. He's lucky enough to get a very good Jesuit education in Medina del Campo, which gives him the tools which he's going to use later on in life. He's going to get good training in Latin and basic initiation into theology and the ability to read the Bible and philosophy and theology and things like that. Also, he becomes a very good scribe. His penmanship is beautiful, and that also will help him later. But he comes as a teenager with his family to Mexico. Before that, he describes an event of initiation where his mother and sisters and some cousins take him aside and tell him the Jewish secret of the family, that actually, despite the fact that he was sent to this Jesuit Catholic school, and the family seemed to be outwardly very pious, they actually are Jewish, and they have a commitment to another law, the law of Moses, and that's their belief. And he describes how it wasn't a shock to him. It was like his eyes were opened, and he saw the truth of it so clearly, and he embraced Judaism from that point onwards. And so he also has kind of a double life where during the day, so to speak, he's running around on horseback all over this territory in Mexico with his uncle. His uncle is a devout Catholic, is, like I said before, trying everything to erase his Jewish past. And around his uncle, he can't show any of his Jewish commitments, of any of his passion for the law of Moses, as he calls it. And he keeps it to himself. And he just, so he has this kind of double life where on the outside, he's with his uncle, he can't show any of that Judaism. And then with his brothers, with his sisters, with other members of this small community, he's able, when it's safe enough, to close the doors and then talk about the law of Moses, then talk about Shabbat, then talk about Yom Kippur, then talk about which days you need to fast, and how do you pray, and all those things. So he seeks out people in that network that could teach him things, because he does, he's exposed to only so much from his family, and this goes on until his sister oversteps the bounds and invites a fellow converso to come and join some of their ceremonies. This converso, like the uncle, wanted nothing to do with Judaism, either out of conviction, his belief in the truth of Catholicism, or out of fear that it would hurt him. And he reports Isabel, the older sister Isabel, and then the whole family gets arrested. The governor loses everything. He's stripped of his honors. He's expelled, or about to be expelled from Spain. He dies in prison, heartbroken, everything lost. And Luis and his sisters and mother are all arrested, go through very, very difficult times in prison, appeared at an auto da fe, and ask for mercy, and are given mercy, and then serve out a period of penance. And it's during that time, right after he's given clemency and placed to work in a monastery as a way of rehabilitating him as a good Christian, it's there that he starts to write his spiritual anthology, his writings on Judaism in his own way, and that is just an amazingly interesting period of his life, and for us as historians who want to go back to the past, it's just an incredible thing to be able to go back to, and I can talk about it as much.
Absolutely, we're going to just to clarify. Had he and his family not asked for penance, would they have been murdered at the stake? Was that the policy? If he said Shema Yisrael instead of asking for penance.
Yeah. So let me share. I got a bunch of books here I wanted just to give a shout out to. So this is a fabulous work by Miriam Bodian, professor at University of Texas, Austin, one of the great historians of early modern Jewry. She has a whole chapter in Carvajal, but she talks about specifically people who, when arrested by the Inquisition, challenge the inquisitors, right? They don't just try to get out with their skin. They take it as an opportunity to make a last stand religiously. And the way the Inquisition worked was the first time you can ask for mercy because the Inquisition wants to rehabilitate you. If after being granted mercy, you backslide again, you go back again, then you're executed for your crime, because clearly there's no helping you. And then it's only a question of, are you strangled before being burnt alive, or are you burnt alive? So if after your second arrest, you give names and you ask for mercy and you say, I've been wrong, I can't believe it, I was fooled, I was whatever, then they'll do you the mercy of killing you before burning you. If you are a true martyr and go down, saying Shema Yisrael, then you will be burnt alive, right? So that's what's. There are cases where people even a second time are given mercy, but it's very, very rare. So yeah, that is the structure. The structure is the first time there's a sense of compassion, and they'll extend clemency on you. But it's important to keep in mind that clemency came with a loss of all your property, and you serve penance for several years, doing all sorts of things. I mean, the penance is generally, it's things like working in a hospital or an orphanage, or, doing acts of kindness and things like that. But it means you've lost everything. You don't start your life again very easily.